And we are very pleased that Greta is here in the studio now.
Welcome.
Lovely to see you.
Great.
Thank you for coming in. So we saw you then, 15 years old, outside the Swedish Parliament, and here we are now. You galvanised the generation. Has it made any difference?
Depends on how you see it. You could look at it in a way that our emissions are still on the rise, and that we are speeding in the wrong direction. We are still expanding fossil fuel infrastructure and so on. There is no sense of urgency whatsoever. It's like no one is acting as if we are in a crisis. But on the other hand, of course, we have had millions of people all over the world walking out, flooding the streets and demanding action. So I guess it depends how you see it. Of course, there has been a difference, but not nearly enough.
And so when you think back to that 15-year-old girl that stood outside Parliament on her own, making a stand, and then think actually how far, even personally, you've come in the last 4 years, that, like Phil said, you've galvanised so many people to come together and sort of fight for this cause. How does that feel personally?
Of course, it's very difficult to describe. We never thought that it would be possible to do anything like that. In the beginning, it was just me, and then it was a handful of others, school children, and we just thought that since we have the opportunity to do something, it is also our moral duty to go out and act. Someone needs to take action, and we are someone. So then we just did it. We didn't count on it having any consequences and so on. We just did it.
When you are 15 or 16 or 17 or 19, as you are, the pressure must be huge. If you've got the world looking at you, scrutinising you, judging you, sometimes harshly, how much pressure is that on you?
I mean, we are a lot of people in the climate movement, and we have each other's backs. But of course, it is too much responsibility for young people, often teenagers and children, to have, because so many people have the opportunity to do something, and yet so painfully few are deciding to use that opportunity and to take action, to communicate the crisis and the urgency. So then it often falls on us to do that. And of course, it shouldn't be that way. We need everyone.
And do you find the pressure? Because I think we see this all the time in all aspects of life, where people are waiting for someone to trip up so they can go, ha, you know, I've got you, you know, let's get Greta with a, you know, plastic bottle or something. Like, do you constantly have to think all the time? And it probably comes a lot more natural to you than it would to many people. But is that always in the back of your head?
I mean, of course, in one way, but also on the other hand, there's not really, I don't have anything to hide in that way, so I don't have to be careful in that sense. But I think we need to move on from only looking at individuals and judging individuals and focus on the larger systemic changes that we need to see.
Well, so what you showed, especially to a vast younger generation, was that you are not on your own. There is a group of people here who are showing solidarity and who are with you and do want to do something. But there are a lot of people who think, oh, it's only me, I'm just one person, what difference can I make? When you say we have to do something, what is it that we have to do to get attention? Is it glue ourselves to a road or spray an old master with orange paint? What is it that we should do?
I completely understand that feeling. I've also felt that way for a very long time, that I'm only one person, what can I do? And so then I tried many different things. And we're still seeing that today, people trying out different methods. Some work better than others. And eventually I found something that worked for me, which was school strike. And then it turned out that that was a way for many others also to show their concern and to demand action.
You've this book here, as Phil said, you win the award for the heaviest book. I mean, but there is a lot to talk about in here, and you've brought together 100 very important people to talk about climate. Your voice very much heard in this as well. Why was this important for you?
This is, for me, a kind of activism, a form of activism. I have a platform that I need to use. I have sort of made it my mission to try to spread awareness to as many people as I can, taking many different forms. So it's like the focus, the the point of this is to sort of highlight the voices that need to be heard, whether it is scientists, experts talking about how the planet is changing and what we need to do about it, or whether it is storytellers, authors and activists, people who live on the front lines of the climate emergency, who are already suffering from its consequences.
It's quite interesting though that and you just actually mentioned School Strike, that it's like an education book.
Yeah.
But initially the irony is that you were actually saying don't go to school, go on strike.
Yeah, exactly. It's very ironic because I say that the most important thing we can do about the climate crisis is to educate ourselves about it, to try to understand it, because I believe that only if we understand it and understand the urgency, we will be able to act.
Well, I mean, I imagine it'll be essential reading for anyone attending COP27. You're not going. Rishi Sunak, our Prime Minister, isn't going. I mean, he's been criticised for not making an appearance. And I just wondered, you know, you said, actually in the clip we played, our so-called leaders, if they are not attending something like that or discussing that, does that worry you?
I mean, of course, all these individual cases have many different reasons why they make those decisions. So, of course, we shouldn't be focusing ourselves blindly to just one example. But overall, we can see that the people in power do not really prioritise the climate crisis. They have proven time and time again that their priorities are somewhere else entirely. Yeah. They would rather stay in power and serve the forces of greed than to take the responsibility.
So what's the point then? Because you've said yourself that they go to these COPs and it's attention seeking. Actually, I think was one of the things that you said. Greenwashing is another thing. We watched them all. You described COP26 as blah blah blah. We've got COP27 coming up, and as that, last week the UN Environment Programme stated that there was no credible pathway to limit global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees. Is anyone in power truly, honestly taking this seriously?
I mean, it doesn't seem that way, judging from their actions, at least. Having spoken to so many of these people, it's like the only real change is going to come from the outside when enough people are demanding this change, because they are going to most likely do whatever they can as long as they can get away with it. Yeah. So we have to make sure that they do not get away with it.
You are a voice for so many. That's a lot of pressure to have on young shoulders, and I know you are definitely strong enough to handle it all. But there must be moments when you want to just kind of kick back, relax, be a teenager. How do you sort of offset all of this pressure?
I mean, I don't know, it depends. I usually go for very, very long walks to try to clear my head. But, I mean, it shouldn't have to be like this. It shouldn't have to, this responsibility shouldn't have to fall on teenagers at all like this. So it's the fact that there are young people mostly who have to take up this fight is a sign of betrayal and failure from those in power.
Just finally, when you look forward now to the world that you will get older in, have kids in, partners in, and that's live your life in, how do you feel about it? Are you positive about where we're going?
I mean, of course, I wouldn't be an activist if I thought that we're moving in the right direction. But also, I am also an activist because I believe that we can change things. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. I try to not think about the future too much and rather focus and spend my time on trying to change that future for the better instead.
Good for you. Well, look, this is the book that we're talking about, The Climate Book. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time today.